And then the other one will have to go. Maybe another year. So we'll see how it goes. I've heard some people have possible contingency
South Carolina have it done. I think it's the same day. This I just say overnight.
Yeah.
I know. It's here, right?
We'll start the meeting with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is it on?
Mayor and Board. The first item on the agenda for this evening are the warrants and claims which have been audited by the Audit Commission. And I need a motion to approve the payment of the warrants and claims. I'll make the motion. Thank you.
I second.
Thank you, Trustee Nigro. Trustee Walsh?
Yes.
Trustee Santora?
Yes.
Trustee Nigro?
Yes.
Trustee Di Natale?
Yes.
Trustee Di Bartolomeo?
Yes.
Mayor Di Natale? I'll go home now. You can finish up without me.
Good night.
Oh, dear. The next item on the agenda are the prior meeting minutes, which are the minutes from the meeting of August 22nd and include today public hearing for proposed local law 2022-C. Do I have a motion to accept the prior meeting minutes?
I make a motion.
Thank you, Trustee Di Bartolomeo.
I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Walsh. Trustee Walsh.
Yes.
Trustee Santoro.
Yes.
Trustee Nigro.
Yes.
Trustee Di Natale.
Yes.
Trustee Di Bartolomeo.
Yes.
Mayor Minicos.
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is a resolution needed to authorize the purchase of a Chevrolet Tahoe SLT, formerly used as a chief's vehicle from Bayville Fire Company 1 for a total cost of $12,000. And the recommendation is that this vehicle is in very good shape and could be useful to the village of Bayville. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Trustee Di Natale.
A second.
Thank you, Trustee Di Bartolomeo. Trustee Walsh?
Yes.
Trustee Santoro?
Yes.
Trustee Nigro?
Yes.
Trustee Di Natale?
Yes.
Trustee Di Bartolomeo?
Yes.
Mayor Minicos.
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is a new hire and laborer, Joshua Corletto, as a laborer. We're hiring him non-part-time, effective September 8th, 2022, at a starting annual salary of $31,987.68 as per the current collective bargaining agreement between the Village of Bayville and the CSEA. Do I have a motion to approve Joshua's hire?
I'll make that motion to hire Joshua Colleto.
Thank you, trustee DiNatale. A second, please.
A second?
Thank you, trustee DeBartolomeo. Trustee Walsh?
Yes.
Trustee Santoro?
Yes.
Trustee Nigro?
Yes.
Trustee DiNatale?
Yes.
Trustee DeBartolomeo?
Yes.
Mayor Minicozzi?
Yes.
Thank you. The next item is for the purchase of two 2023 Ford F-150s for the water department to replace two of its existing vehicles. The total cost is $140,993.08, and that will be paid on a 5-year lease agreement.
Is it lease or buyout?
It's a lease to purchase, so it's a 5-year lease to purchase. At the end of the 5 years, we will own the vehicle.
Right, so it's not a lease, it's just a regular finance.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. It's a purchase installment debt.
Right,
There you go. Okay?
And we can't use the Chevy Tahoe for one of those, so I'm just trying to.
So there's a whole roundabout of vehicles going on. So the water department has a 2500 series pickup truck that is too large for them, that we're gonna slide over to the highway department. And they currently have the old chief's vehicle that the village bought several years ago, which is now 17 years old. So they're gonna get, the water department's getting rid of their big pickup and the old chief's vehicle, and these two vehicles are replacing those two vehicles for them.
Okay, and then the Chevy Tahoe goes where?
We'll go to Joe Rogers, which, I don't know, what is Joe's title?
Oh,
He acts as a beach attendant throughout the year and then does some other
yeah.
auxiliary police activities for
So
us.
that truck he's driving.
Yes, and he shares times he shares a vehicle, so
Yeah.
now he'll have his own.
And they can plow snow with the
So.
250. They couldn't do it with the water. And the water department.
You'll see what's coming next, trustee Member. Do we have a motion to authorize the purchase of the two water truck vehicles?
I'll put that motion for.
Thank you, trustee
And I'll
DiNatale.
second it.
Thank you, trustee Nigro. Trustee Walsh?
Yes.
Trustee Santoro?
Yeah.
Trustee Nigro?
Yes.
Trustee DiNatale?
Yes.
Trustee DeBartolomeo?
Yes.
Mayor Minicozzi?
Yes,
So, now further to your question, trustee Nigro, we have a resolution to authorize the purchase of a new snowplow, spreader, and safety lights to be installed on the existing Ford F-250 for a total cost of $14,635. And we have 3 proposals for this equipment, one from Dejana, one from NAC, and one from Trias. And Dejana came in as the low proposal at that total of $14,635. Do I have a motion to authorize the purchase of this equipment?
I will move that authorize the purchase of that equipment, even though it's not like a piece of snow, but it's good we have the extra
you're
equipment.
right.
There you go. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, trustee DiNatale. Trustee Walsh?
Yes.
Trustee Santoro?
Yes.
Trustee Nigro?
Yes.
Trustee DiNatale?
Yes.
Trustee DeBartolomeo?
Yes.
Trustee Minicozzi? Mayor Minicozzi?
Yes.
The next item on the agenda, actually, I just want to check the time for our public hearing. If I may. Just give 1 minute, 6:45, correct? Okay. The next item on the agenda is a resolution to increase the annual salary of the building inspector by $10,400 effective September 29th, 2022.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, trustee Santoro.
Second?
Thank you, trustee DeBartolomeo. Trustee Walsh?
Yes.
Trustee Santoro?
Yes.
Trustee Nigro?
And what does he make now, 99?
He is at, No, I do have it. Yes.
Sorry? Yeah, that was the sequel.
On the back of this page. He's currently at 90,176.32.
I vote yes.
Okay, so, trustee Nyla, thank you. Trustee Di Natale,
Yes.
trustee DiBartolomeo,
Yes.
Mayor Minicozy.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the increase for the part-time MEO who drives the recycling truck for us. This is a 2.75% increase in an hourly wage, and this is as per the wage increase schedule for part-time employees that was approved for fiscal year 2022-2023.
I make a motion?
Thank you, trustee DiBartolomeo.
I'll second that.
Thank you, trustee Di Natale. Trustee Walsh?
Yes.
Trustee Santoro?
Yes.
Trustee Nigro?
Yes.
Trustee Di Natale?
Yes.
Trustee DiBartolomeo?
Yes.
Mayor Minicozy.
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is a resolution to approve a proposal from CSHL Incorporated to prune 3 trees and remove 1 tree at the Village Hall property for a total cost of $1,500. This again, we received other proposals ranging as high as $5,900 for this work.
I'm sorry, what was the high?
$5,988.
The difference.
Mhm.
Do we plan to replace the removed tree?
I believe at this point they're doing a pruning, they're not removing yet, is that correct, Mayor
Yeah,
Minicozy?
they're pruning the 3 big oak trees, I believe there are, and there's 1 dead tree on the green. It's a
The
small
weeping
tree
willow, right?
that could certainly be replaced, it's a small, low tree.
I only ask that we consider replacing it, since that's what we require people to do in the village, with their own property, we should follow.
Understood. Well, we did just plant the tree at the museum.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Yes. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, trustee Santoro.
I'll second. Sorry, okay.
Thank you, trustee Walsh. Trustee Walsh?
Yes.
Trustee Santoro?
Yes.
Trustee Nigro?
Yes.
Trustee Di Natale?
Yes.
Trustee DiBartolomeo?
Yes.
Mayor Minicozy.
Yes.
The next item on the agenda, I'm going to read a resolution, and then we'll ask for a motion and a second. Whereas the Mayor and Board of Trustees of the Incorporated Village of Bayville have determined that the position of complaint investigator part-time is no longer a need for the village, and therefore have decided to eliminate the Nassau County Civil Service position of complaint investigator part-time, code XRJ, by the layoff procedure. Now therefore be it resolved that the position of complaint investigator part-time, code XRJ, is hereby eliminated, and be it further resolved that the employee currently holding said position, Santo Dagabi, is hereby separated from service effective September 27, 2022. Do I have a motion on that resolution?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, trustee Di Natale.
Second.
Thank you, trustee Santoro. Trustee Walsh.
I just have a question. Who's going to handle the complaint?
The village inspector.
Then it will be Doug.
The
Will be
village.
doing that instead.
Okay.
Would we just give him a rate?
Trustee, oh,
Yes.
sorry. Trustee Santoro.
Yes.
Trustee Nigro.
Yes.
Trustee Di Natale.
Yes.
Trustee DiBartolomeo.
Yes.
Mayor Minicozy.
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is a new car member appointment. The individual is a Mike Gavin, a Bayville resident. He's an experienced carpenter and home builder. He understands how to read blueprints. And it looks like he will be a good addition to the Committee of Architectural Review. Chairman Nyro, you've spoken with
I
Mr.
have.
Gavin, correct? And he is excited about accepting this
I don't
appointment.
know about being excited, but he certainly is favorable towards having the position. It indicates he'll be able to make the nights that we meet. It'll be good having a full rounded out contingent of members, and it'll make it easier to come up with a quorum. And so I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Trustee Nyro.
second?
Thank you, Trustee DiBartolomeo. Trustee Walsh.
Yes.
Trustee Santoro.
Yes.
Trustee Nyro.
Yes.
Trustee Di Natale.
Yes.
Trustee DiBartolomeo.
Yes.
Mayor Minicozzi.
Yes.
The next item on the agenda relates to water fees. And this is we need a resolution to amend the schedule of rates, fees, and penalties applicable to Chapter 77 Water of the Village Code. And the changes were prepared by Supervisor of Water Plant Operations, Andrew Petty. These relate to tap fee, inspection of tap fees based on size, temporary water fee, manual meter reading fee, and those are the changed ones to be changed. And then the additional new fee is the fire protection charge fee. And these changes will become effective January 1st, 2023.
Is the manual meter reading fee from 50 to 100?
Correct.
That's a $50 fee you get on the final reading?
It's not on the final reading. I believe if this is the fee that I'm understanding is we still have several homeowners that, right,
8 of them.
that have not yet converted to the radio frequency meter, so we read them manually, so that's the fee for that.
Got it.
Okay.
He's looking to change the one.
Me too.
I'll make a motion.
Yes, thank you, Trustee Bartolomeo.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Trustee Natale. Trustee Walsh.
Yes.
Trustee Santoro.
Yes.
Trustee Nyro.
Yes.
Trustee Di Natale.
Yes.
Trustee Bartolomeo.
Yes.
Mayor Minicozzi.
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is for the, actually, for revision of the application to use of facilities and the fees for rental of the facilities. We have now added the rental of Southside Beach back house to the facilities available to be rented. The rental fee for any of our facilities will now be $100. There will be a required escrow deposit fee of $150, which will be given back upon confirmation that the facility has been left in the condition it was found. So
What's the current fee?
the current fee is $70, so we're going up to $100 for the use, and then we've added the escrow deposit fee again to ensure the cleanup of the facility.
And that's refundable.
That is
Refundable if it's.
yes, yes, exactly.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Trustee Santoro.
Second?
Thank you, Trustee DiBartolomeo. Trustee Walsh.
Yes.
Trustee Santoro.
Yes.
Trustee Nyro.
Yes.
Trustee Di Natale.
Yes.
Trustee DiBartolomeo.
Yes.
Mayor Minicozzi.
Yes.
The next resolution I will read, this has to do with a DASNY grant that the village has been fortunate to procure through Assembly and Naveen. And be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby appropriates $275,000 of the fund balance in the general fund to be transferred to the capital fund for the purpose of renovating and improving West Harbor Memorial Park, including the purchase and installation of new playground equipment, installation of pickleball courts, and the refurbishing of the concession stand, with $225,000 to be reimbursed by DASNY, State and Municipal Facilities Program Project ID 25225 after completion of said project. So this is a grant paid in arrears.
Steve,
Yes.
for the project, were you able to get lights?
Lights were not included in the project, no.
And in the playground, will they be removing what's there, replacing it, but there was, I believe, some big concrete slabs underneath the slide that were kind of dangerous?
Well, the existing playground will be removed. The new playground has to be shifted slightly by code because it's too close to the swings by the current code, so whatever cement is there will be removed.
Steel.
And the tennis courts won't be affected.
No,
You said the pickle courts will be separate.
It's on
So-
Different location.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, trustee Centura.
I second.
Thank you, trustee DiBartolomeo. Trustee Walsh?
Yes.
Trustee Centura?
Yes.
Trustee Nigro?
Yes.
Trustee DiMattei?
yes,
Trustee DiBartolomeo?
Yes.
Mayor Minicozzi?
yes,
The next item on the agenda is a proposal from H2M related to the developments and the rehabilitation at West Harbor for the new pickleball courts. It's a proposal for engineering services, including site investigation, contract documents, environmental permitting, bidding, construction administration. These are all at lump sum amounts totaling $31,400, and bid document reproduction and allowance of $1,000.
Can I ask you a question? I should know this. Where are we gonna locate these pickleball courts?
the pickleball courts are just west of the pump house. So there, if you come in the gate, you go straight past the guard booth, you make a right to access the pickleball courts are close by West Harbor Drive.
An area that people are still using for parking.
No, it's not,
Grass,
it's not
grass
far,
area.
it's in the grass
The
area.
grass area.
Okay.
Or we could use it for the
Well,
trials. I thought it was gonna be on the other side of the tennis court.
the cost, it was too much. The electrical lines would have had to have been moved, one of the ball fields would have been adjusted with new backstops and fencing. It was just less expensive to put it on the other side.
And how many courts do it on?
Two courts.
I make a motion?
Thank you, trustee DiBartolomeo.
I'll second.
Thank you, trustee Centura. Trustee Walsh?
Yes.
Trustee Centura?
Yes.
Trustee Nigro?
Yes.
Trustee DiMattei?
Yes.
Trustee DiBartolomeo?
Yes.
Mayor Minicozzi?
Yes.
The next item is a proposal from Rose Fence for the, in the amount of $900 for the, what are we doing completely, right? They're going to renovate. To replace the fence that is at the corner of West Harbor Drive and Loveland Avenue, more or less, that holds all the individual organization signs. So it's the crosshatch piece of fencing that then gets all the organizational signs. That fencing was probably put up probably more than 15 years ago, and is in need of replacement, and the fee for the fence to do so is $900.
That's on the north side,
It's on the
Yes.
north side of
Yes.
West Harbor,
Yes.
northeast corner, yes.
I'll make a motion. It says we're going to court.
That
Close, it
is
is close to Pavona Court. It's in between Pavona and West
Or
Harbor.
you come over the bridge.
Yes.
Yes.
It is, that's where the lower court is, right after West Harbor Drive.
It's in between
It's
West
between,
Harbor Drive and
yeah.
Pavona.
yeah, it's before Bavona, but right after West Harbor Drive,
Correct.
on the right-hand side there. Okay, thank you, trustee DiMattei. I heard you'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, trustee DiBartolomeo. Trustee Walsh?
Yes.
Trustee Santoro?
Yes.
Trustee Nigro?
Yes.
Trustee DiMattei?
Yes.
Trustee DiBartolomeo? Mayor Minicozzi?
Yes.
The next item is a proposal from Houghton Brothers, and it is for two items that need immediate attention. One is to provide handicap access to the beach at the end of Merritt Lane, and the other is to repair the section of the parking lot at Creek Beach, which is in very bad shape and poses a possible danger to people who are using the Creek Marina facility. The curbing and the handicap access to Merritt Lane Beach is $2,400, and the parking area at Creek Beach is $2,600.
I make that motion.
Thank you, trustee DiMattei.
I'll second, but I'll point out still that the relocated gazebo is not ADA compliant still.
Thank you for that, trustee Nigro. Trustee Walsh?
Yes.
Trustee Kinsella?
Yes.
Trustee Nygrood?
Yes.
Trustee Vitale?
Yes.
Trustee DeFarlo
Yes.
Mayor Minicozzi?
Yes.
At this point, we'll move forward to the public hearing for the local law. Notice of public hearing, notice is hereby given that the Board of Trustees of the Incorporated Village of Bayville will hold a public hearing commencing at 6:45, let the record show it is 6:56 p.m. on Monday, September 26, 2022, at Bayville Village Hall, 34 School Street in said village. The hearing will be on whether to enact proposed local law 2022-D, which will add Chapter 8 bamboo to the village code for the purpose of prohibiting the planting and growing of bamboo as defined by this proposed local law within the Incorporated Village of Bayville, and to establish penalties for violations of said prohibition. Copy of proposed local law 2022-D is posted on the Village of Bayville's website, which may be found at the address is given as https://bayvilleNewYork.gov WP content uploads 2022-08 bamboo prohibition PLL 2022D, and it's a PDF. Proposed local law 2022B may also be viewed at the Bayville Village Hall, 34th School Street, Bayville, New York 11709, where it may be reviewed between the hours of 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Monday to Friday, excepting holidays from the date of this notice to the time of the hearing. Persons who may suffer with a disability which would prevent them from participating in said hearing should notify Maria Alfano, Party Village Clerk Treasurer at 516-281-439 in sufficient time to permit such arrangements to be made to enable such persons to participate in said hearing. By order of the Board of Trustees, Incorporated Village of Bayville, Maria Alfano, Party Village Clerk Treasurer. This is dated August 31st, 2022. For the record, there is an affidavit of publication. There is an affidavit of posting. The law is properly aged to all of you trustees. And I will now turn the hearing over to you, Board, and to Village Attorney Peter Weiler.
I think at this time it would be appropriate to determine whether any persons present here wish to make this comment concerning this proposed local law.
Is anybody on the floor that would like to be heard on the proposed local law?
I'd just like to know exactly what the law is intended to do, prevent bamboo from being planted or remove the existing bamboo also, and for what reason, just out of curiosity.
Well, there are several complaints about neighbors that have bamboo, and as it sounds like you probably know, it's a very aggressive plant. It grows uncontrollably if not maintained, and
Oh, yeah, I just want to know the reason.
Yes.
Why you brought that up.
Many municipalities prohibit growing bamboo.
And that would be to eliminate someone from putting bamboo as, say, a barrier or a fence.
correct.
Well, what it does, it also, I think it's a good law in that if someone has bamboo that encroaches on someone's property, the person who's being victimized by it has a process whereby he has to let the village know that he's given the other person notice to take care of it, and if there isn't compliance, then it's sort of,
Sounds like a good idea.
then it's all solved.
Which, it's kind of related to why I'm here tonight, but I'll leave that till after you finish this.
But anyway, that's the
Yeah.
process and the reason for the law.
Right.
Okay?
Peter, how are we gonna handle some properties that might have bamboo? See, someone just bought a house and it has bamboo planted. So
Well,
did not
I mean, anyone who buys a house, and, you know, that's gonna be something they'll have to be aware of. And if you have bamboo, as I understand the law, it doesn't say you have to tear it all down. It says you better maintain it and do it in a manner that prevents any encroachment on the adjacent properties.
Correct.
So there is a
it's not the end of the world for someone, but it's something that someone has to be very cautious about.
The local law does address the duty to combine bamboo and regulations regarding bamboo pre-existing industry approach.
Anybody else on this local law?
I guess we're gonna have a motion to close
Close
the
the
hearing.
hearing, may I have a motion to close the hearing? That record shows 7 p.m.
Make a motion?
Thank you, trustee DeBartolomeo.
Second.
Thank you, trustee Nyro, trustee Walsh,
Yes.
trustee Santoro,
Yes.
trustee Nyro,
Yes.
trustee Di Natale,
Yes.
Mayor Minicozzi.
Yes.
Thank you. I will now read
Yes.
the, I'm sorry.
No, I don't think they call me.
I'm sorry. Trustee DeBartolomeo.
Yes. I
Mayor
don't know if it matters.
Minicozzi.
I don't know if it matters.
She's-
I'm
He's
just
never
saying
got,
yes.
he's never got even returned it.
I know.
I'll read the resolution as prepared by the village attorney.
One little minor correction, if you could
So
just
I'll
add
add
that
this
too.
one,
Okay.
okay. Add this to it or go with this one? Oh, okay.
It's just what I couldn't pencil.
Peter, do you want them as two separate or can they be one, it could be one resolution?
You could make that all one
Okay, very
resolution.
good.
Sure.
Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Bayville, Village Board, by resolution dated August 22nd, 2022, introduced local law 2022-B bamboo for consideration at a public hearing to be held on September 26, 2022 at 6:45 p.m. at the Village Hall located at 34 School Street, Bayville, New York. And whereas the Village Board, in accordance with the State Environmental Quality Review Act, (SEQRA), declared itself to be the agency and caused to be prepared a short environmental assessment form to analyze and consider the potential environmental impacts of the proposed action. And whereas the village board has determined that the proposed action is an unlisted action which will not result in significant adverse environmental impacts. Now therefore be resolved that the proposed action will not result in a significant adverse impact on the environment and will improve the environment by preventing the spread of future establishment of invasive plant species in the village. Be it resolved that local law 2022-D to be adopted as local law 4 of the year 2022 to add to the Bayville Village Code a new chapter. I see that you have it as chapter 11. We had it marked to be added as chapter 8.
Oh, is that right? Okay. I understood it to be 11. Okay.
So we're going to,
Chapter 8A, or is it
that's
just
just
8?
chapter 8.
Just chapter 8, okay.
Okay, a new chapter 8 entitled Bamboo, and be and the same hereby is enacted by the Board of Trustees of the Incorporated Village of Bayville as follows. I need a motion first on this resolution.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, trustee Santoro.
I think the record should also show that, of course, the local law has been circulated again tonight to the board as part of the package,
Yes.
and that will be included in the minutes of the meeting. Thank you.
So noted. I'm sorry, trustee Santoro made the motion. Do I have a second?
I would say that.
Trustee Di Natale, thank you. Trustee Walsh?
Yes.
Trustee Santoro?
Yes.
Trustee Nyro?
Yes.
Trustee Di Natale?
Yes.
Trustee Bartolomeo?
Yes.
Mayor Minicozzi?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We will file the rule with the Department of State, after which time it will become effective. At this time, Mayor and Board, I have no other business before you, so you could open meetings to the public. I am aware that Mr. Andrea had called me earlier today and asked if he could be the first to speak when the meeting was opened up to public comment. So, Mr. Andrea, if you would like to come forward.
Good afternoon, good evening, Board. Attorney Andrea. I'm here submitting plans for your review for 10 and 12 Bayville Avenue, which Mr. Finley is proposing a water park attractions in the back behind the tavern, Shipwreck Tavern restaurant, and behind the Breakers restaurant. I have 7 copies here as requested.
So, Mr. Andre is submitting this to you as is required prior to the scheduling of a site plan review hearing. This is a commercial property, and as such, site plan review does go before the Board of Trustees.
And this is for that's a water slide, is what I'm told, is that the?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Who is your principal?
Mr. Finley over here.
Mr. Finley.
It's his properties, and he's looking to upgrade that back section there. A couple water attractions.
What's there now? Is it back where they have the skating rink?
Yeah, the skating rink, and then.
That will stay, or
No,
that's going to be
that's-
replaced?
That area there, all back in that, from there and east.
And we'll remove some of the park that's there already?
Just the rink. That area right there, right, a little bit to the east.
Does this plan call for any, offer any additional parking?
No,
No.
Behind the breakers too, did you say?
yeah,
What's behind that, the same type of water park?
well, there's some storage things,
Need some parking?
not really.
I don't think anybody parks there for the
No,
park.
no, they don't. It will be fenced in to the park with the same fence around. It's gonna be part of the park. It's just kind of
Seasonal? Just that part will be open seasonal, like the,
I'm sure,
and now will the rink come in the winter, or is it just going to be?
that I wouldn't know. What about that?
We would try to keep the rink, but it would be slightly relocated.
Any additional food service there?
I don't think so, no.
And what
Who is the official owner of the property? Is it a corporation or?
DR right here.
It's an LLC.
Pardon?
An LLC owns the property.
It's an LLC? Do we have a name for it?
Yeah.
Bayville Land Acquisitions LLC, Bayville Real Estate Holdings LLC, and Bayville Land Holdings LLC. It's all.
It's all in Bayville?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
How big is the slide, do we, or are we doing like?
Yeah, I have this color imagery and all
Okay,
this stuff,
okay.
and it shows you everything. So there's 2 pretty big slides,
Mm-hmm,
and then there is a 3rd slide, or just the 2? 2 slides, and then there's a play area for children, the
all
smaller.
the things like shoot out the water, kind of
Yeah.
shooting
So
up.
there's 2 zones, and that's basically,
How many, how will it hold, is it that, how many, do we know offhand?
any number,
How many what?
how many people would hold?
Like how many people, what's the maximum occupant? Is it gonna?
Well, I would imagine it's gonna be,
Slides?
Behind like any
it's gonna,
other slide park?
it's like all of this, thing. You get a ticket, you're gonna go, you have to wait in line, the whole thing like that.
But
It's
you'll
not,
pay
you know,
admission to the main park, and then you can use facilities there, or the water slide, or can you pay just for the water slide?
Well, we're still working that out. It may be that it's just one fee for everything, or we may have an optional add-on for that. We're still figuring that out.
I believe these will all be questions that should be answerable at the.
at
the hearing.
And that they will come prepared to answer such
Absolutely.
questions.
Yeah.
Perfect,
no, it's just submitted.
perfect,
Okay, all right, thank you, guys.
thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to be heard this evening?
One request. Do you have, excuse me?
Mr.
Finley?
Greg,
Do you have the capability of reproducing this in digital form and
Yeah.
sending it to the village clerk? Because it makes it a lot easier for anybody interested in the village to look at.
Yeah, I have it on my phone right now.
Pardon?
I have it on my phone right now, I'll just send it.
That'd be fine.
you have my email address.
I do. You want to do me a favor and text me again or something, so I don't? Please text me again. I'll send that to you within the hour.
I will email you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Second.
For those of you who don't know me, Peter Vasilis, live in Hilltop. And in July, I believe, I made a complaint to the building department about my neighbor's fence, which involves the planting of arborvitaes on a berm, abutting an existing fence. And they've already gotten to be 12 to 14 feet high. And the code at that time when I made the complaint, and I don't believe he ever got a permit for the trees, was that it would be 4 feet maximum. And these trees grow to 20, 30 feet high. And they are 80 inches from my house. And they were put there intentionally to block my house. And I can prove that. The proof is there because those trees are just in front of my house. Around the rest of the perimeter of my neighbor's house are bushes, which are about 6 feet high. And I don't mind the trees being 6, even 7 feet high, but these trees grow. And I was told that this code was not going to be enforced, even though it was on the books. I don't know if it's been changed. I was speaking with Attorney Weiler, and he told me that the code has been changed, and I submit that that's a big mistake. And I don't know how it's been changed. Is there any code left that protects the citizens of Bayville from an encroachment like this on someone's property, which devalues the property, takes sunlight away, light and air, and it ruined my garden because all the plants now don't receive sidelight. And I've had a garden there for 35 years, an herb garden. And I approached my neighbor, and I approached the building department, and the building department did not get back to me for a while. And when I finally told after 2 months, they told me that the code was going to be changed. And I said, well, I'm grandfathered in. I made this complaint while the code was in effect. And I don't even think there was a permit for these trees. Now, this code is here, as other codes, for the protection of the citizens. And I don't know how it was changed. And if it was changed to eliminate the condition of a living fence, now why was that changed? A living fence is more intrusive than a stationary fence made out of wood or brick or something. And why was it changed right after my complaint? These codes are there, and and I was told that they're unenforceable, which I don't believe because they've been enforced. And I'm sure there's records of that. And there's other people that have similar situations. Now, other codes are only enforced when there's a complaint, and I understand that. And that's what they're there for. They're not meant for a building inspector to go out and look for trouble. It's not if everyone's happy, but these
Are the bushes hanging over the property line?
yes, and I can cut them. And
Where he could be made to cut them also. I mean,
but they're on my property. And my neighbor also cut, there's a locust tree, and he cut that tree back 3 feet over my property. I never complained about it until now, I guess.
So your neighbor has a fence.
There was a fence there. It's his fence. It's an existing fence. And
The way Mr. Weiler was explaining.
And Mr. Weiler
You have a
said,
fence, that it supersedes the live fence, as you call it.
yes, but now he's not aware that the fence is attached to the trees by a berm. There's dirt piled up that was piled up against the fence, and these trees were planted as close to the fence as possible, incorporating themselves as part of the fence. Now, a fence, you have to consider proximity. There's setbacks in building. Now, if someone built a house and put a tree with a setback 20 feet away, that would be fine. You know, but this is really close. And this is what laws like, codes like this are designed to do. And to eliminate that code, I think it's a disservice to our community. Now, and it also makes neighbors, you know, confrontational to each other. I asked my neighbor, would you consider cutting these trees or keeping them trimmed, which would be a benefit to him too, because they will not thin out that way. If they get tall, they will thin out and he'll lose some of his privacy. I said, I'd be happy with 6 or 7 feet. They're nice at that. But when they get to be that high and they're stopping light from coming in my house, that's going to darken my house. And, you know, sunlight is important. It's important for life. So this is an encroachment on my and on my bill and my value of my house too, because someone comes and, oh, this house is overgrown. And, well, geez, it's not mine.
What do you estimate the height of the trees there?
They're already 12 feet high, maybe 14 feet within a year of putting them in.
So you made mention that they're arborvitaes, which I assume is a tree more than it is a bush.
Yes, it's a
If your
tree.
neighbor planted boxwood bushes, they wouldn't have got so tall, but there was nothing stopping him from planting an oak tree that would have grown.
That would be fine, because you can't plant an oak tree to create a fence. That's not a fence type tree. He planted other bushes around the perimeter of his property that are totally acceptable. But this is like,
Again, Peter, correct me. He has a
He has
fence.
a fence, so.
yes, but I explained that the fence is incorporated in the trees. And that fence it's gonna fall down, it's falling
Well,
down.
be that as it may, he has a fence. So if the fence was not there, correct me if I'm wrong, he could have been made to adjust.
Under the old law,
Yeah.
I find that a troubling description of it, because the trees act as a fence. They are intended to be a fence. When something is intended to be something, that's what it becomes. There's laws that, they're federal insecticide, fungicide laws, and they have inert ingredients that are intended to be inert, even though they're not inert. So the intention of creating or enhancing the existing fence, I don't think that's a valid point. And I've run that by other people. And the fact that this is an intentional thing against, and hey, I offered, why don't you just keep them I was told I want my privacy. So he's gonna have his privacy, and I'm gonna lose light in my house. Now, I don't know if there's any laws that, federal laws or something that do prevent something like that. But I certainly someone can look into it. I mean, you can't, it's like putting someone in a grave. You're blocking light, sunlight, and he's ruining my garden. So, when you have side light and airflow, you'll get more mold on the house. It'll overgrow. I mean, no one in this room would want this. Here's a picture of it right here. You want to see it? And this used to be all open. My fig tree is there, and that hasn't even produced figs because of the stream problem. Excuse me.
So you don't want the neighbor to trim back.
And I was willing to accept, 6
He won't trim them down?
No, he's very hostile.
And how tall is the berm?
Excuse me?
That you said that they're on a berm, so they're like
Yes,
12 feet in addition to the berm?
Right now, I didn't
Or
mention
about,
that.
I mean,
Yeah, he put them on a berm intentionally to get them higher from the
so
beginning.
like a,
But the fact that he put different trees all around the property and these trees there, this is not right. And this is what this law is supposed to be. And I feel that I'm grandfathered into the old law since I made this complaint before.
Peter felt otherwise on
Yeah,
that.
I spoke with the village prosecutor about this situation and the fact that he had made his complaint to the building inspector when the old law was in effect. As I understand the law, And as Mr., I can't remember his name, our village prosecutor,
Davis?
Yeah, Davis. Right, Mr. Davis, I discussed that with him, and he said that he would find it very difficult to try to enforce any law under those circumstances, because number one, there wasn't a pending case, and now anytime a pending case would come up, based upon this old complaint, it still would have to follow our present law. Whoever planted those trees, the owner of that property, would say he's not in violation at this point because the law was changed.
Excuse me, was he aware that there was a berm there? That's abutting the fence, that's incorporated into the fence?
I don't know that. That's the first time I've heard anything about a berm.
This is the first I'm hearing of berm too, but Doug has been there, right? So
Yes, and I don't understand why Doug was kind of like a little, I don't know, hostile, should I say? And I asked him if he was friends with, did he know them? I didn't say friends. And he said he didn't know them. And I know that not to be true. So I don't know what's going on here. And for the law to change like that after I made a complaint is a very suspicious thing.
it had nothing to do with your complaint.
Excuse me?
It had nothing to do with your complaint.
Well, it certainly seems that way.
I
Appearances.
think the problem with the way it was written before is the fact that you don't know how to even interpret it in a way because of the way bushes could be planted along a boundary line, which wouldn't take on the nature of a fence. Another good example of it is if someone planted a big maple tree with a lot of leaves in their backyard and it cast a shadow on your property, you'd be subject to that.
Well, he wouldn't do that because he didn't put those big trees where he has a view of the water.
Well, that's
So am I
story,
supposed,
but I mean,
am I supposed to
the
put
law
trees that
wasn't-
block his view now?
the law.
I mean, this is what this
The law
law
was
is
changed.
designed to prevent. And I don't know what the new code says, it just eliminates the living part of it.
Yeah, it eliminates the reference to the bushes as being part of a fence.
Well, you can look online or in the dictionary and bushes and trees like arborvitaes and certain trees that bush out, are used as fences. It's a common definition of a fence. A living fence it's called. And and other towns have it and we have it. So all of a sudden we're denying what we had for 10, 20, 30 years. I don't know when the first code. Why was this code changed for that? Why can't the guy just compromise? And why can't you help out? Because I don't see the point that there was a fence there, all right, and if that's a point, you were not aware that there was a berm there. And that berm, it's all one conglomeration, you can see it.
But what is the berm doing? I was saying, if they're 12 feet with the berm.
He put dirt against the fence. And then he planted the bushes.
So
But
it's
to
not
make them
the
higher,
berm,
If there was no berm and you waited another year or two, the trees would
Right.
still grow to whatever height they grow to.
But they're gonna grow to 20 or 30 feet high, so why isn't this law being used? To specify that they shouldn't exceed a certain height when we have all these other fence rules? This is a fence.
Again, you're talking specifically about an arborvitae. He could have planted oak trees. if he
That's
wanted.
one's a conifer, that is bushy.
His oak tree can't be more than 6 feet high.
An oak tree is one trunk, and it grows really tall.
This is one, an arborvitae is one trunk too.
That's
It's just
apples and
filled-
oranges.
It's not apples and oranges because.
Okay, it's oak trees and arborvitaes. There's a big difference.
That's why the law was put in place. We can't tell someone that their oak tree can only be 6 feet high.
Well, you can tell them that if you plant it 6 feet from my house, that's not right because it's gonna encroach on my property over the side.
Based on the current law, as I said to you earlier, if you would like, the building inspector can enforce the code and have the neighbor trim the bushes back so they're not hanging over onto your property.
Generally, under common law anyway, if any branch comes over your property, you're permitted to trim that tree, provided your trimming doesn't do anything that's gonna kill the tree. So that's the general rule. And there has to be some.
But if he trimmed the trees on the top, they would remain bushy. And they would be a benefit to his privacy also. I wish someone would tell him that besides me. But, you know, I know about the trees, and I don't mind, if he planted an oak tree, as long as it was 20 feet away from my house, like a common setback. This is set, you don't understand that this is, the proximity is the big deal about
But
this.
it's his property, that's the difference, you see, and as someone, as I mentioned before, if someone planted a very dense shade tree, whether it be a conifer or a deciduous tree, in a location on his back, in his yard, that cast and cut off the sunlight that shined on your garden, you couldn't do anything about it. You don't have a right to necessarily prevent him from planting a tree on his own property.
If you are not gonna do anything about it, you know,
But anyway,
I certainly.
How long have you and your neighbor been at this?
I've been there 35 years, 36 years, and he's been there about 5 years, 6 years.
What house number are you?
I'm at 11 Hilltop, and my neighbor's at 9 Hilltop.
Is that the new house?
And he's also cut down a 250-year-old
I
oak
think
tree.
the neighbors in the new
Is that the new
It's
house?
not the new house, it's an English Tudor, which he.
Is it their old house, the people that built?
Excuse me?
Is it is it number 7?
No, it's number 9. They lived in
Oh,
number
no.
7, they moved to number 9.
Right. Okay, so number 9, the new house, is the house that is the problem for you.
Number 9, yeah, I'm right next door. I mean, I'm 80 inches away. If you look at the surveys, somewhere in the past, they bought 5 feet of the property from someone who owned it, but that's why it's so close. And I don't know how they got away with that, but,
And you're one closer to the water.
excuse me?
You're one closer to the water.
Yes,
You're right before 13.
Yes.
Okay, just trying to visualize where you are.
excuse me?
I just wanted to know exactly where you were.
Yeah.
Because I know that area well. I almost bought number 7.
Oh, you want,
I almost bought number 7.
oh,
I know it.
yeah,
My question was, at what point in time did your relationship with your neighbor go south, and you seem to sound like he's doing this?
well, I think I had a compost bin, which is legal, and they claimed there was rats there, which I never saw a rat there. I have rat station there, and, you know, it's enclosed, and they just never asked me about it before calling the health department. And the health department found nothing wrong. And just, you know, and then they put mothballs all over the place. And I complained that the mothballs were smelling in my house. And that's a federal law, actually. You can't put mothballs in the open. And then they wouldn't put it out, they wanted me to remove the compost pile. And I said, well, you know, composting my garbage, I'm saving money, the town, you know, everyone should have it. And it's Nassau County, gives you instructions on how to do it. So finally, everything kind of settled out, then they put mothballs again. And then my wife called the health department, because they told my wife that the health department told her to put mothballs out to keep the rats away, which it does not do. Now they put wind chimes out, which Doug made them silence them, because there was 2 big wind chimes that were constantly chiming. Now they're chiming again but anyway, so they got belligerent about the mothballs, and I called the DEC, and the DEC was ready to send out 2 officers to find them. And it's a serious penalty, because it goes into the water. It's naphthalene or paradichlorobenzene, which are two very potent chemicals. So Sal Dugatti at the time mediated, and he did a good job on that. And so everything quieted down, and then,
So do you want Doug to go there again, or are you gonna trim these, or where?
Well, I'm gonna trim what I have to trim, what I'm legally allowed to trim. And he's probably not gonna like that, but they should be topped and kept to 6 feet. Now, I don't see where that's such a big deal. I mean, especially since there's a law that says 4 feet. And now, if that fence were to be removed, what does that make the trees? So there's your answer. If the fence is removed, the trees are fenced, which they are now, because they're intended to be a fence. It's, to me, it's just so obvious. And I don't want to fight with my neighbors. I'm still, I'm going to approach him one more time.
It seems like you were fighting with your neighbor before.
I'm not fighting.
The trees were 12 foot high.
Excuse me?
I said, it seems like you've been fighting with your neighbor before these trees were 12 feet high.
Well, I wasn't fighting with them. They were encroaching, they were doing things and, to me and my wife. I mean, just making accusations.
Based on the code, the way it's written now, your neighbor has to stop these bushes from hanging onto your property. So would you like Doug to enforce it? Or
why does he have to, why is that? Because they're a fence?
Well, no, just to clarify that. The present law doesn't say anything about you having the right to cut the tree branches that hang around your yard. Our law doesn't say that. That's general common law about ownership of property. Our law now does not have any restriction on the height of any bushes that may be near the property line that you perceive as a fence.
Yeah. Well, I think that, yes.
Because the law was changed.
Well, I think you should change, I think you should add to that law and put in some clause for proximity to someone's house.
Yeah,
And to the, so this doesn't continue and
The
escalate.
problem also is if you top certain types of trees, they will adapt by growing wider.
That's right, and that's good.
And you will have, he'll have them in his yard, you'll have them in your yard.
No, they're in my yard now, but I don't mind, I said I don't mind them being thick. And why? I just don't want them to go 30 feet high.
The best thing I can recommend.
Would any one of you want that? And would you expect that law that quite obviously should protect that be interpreted in that way? And I don't know why it's not. To me, it's a very obvious interpretation of this. I don't see anywhere that says that a tree, it's not a fence, it's because it's intended to be one, and it's planted as a fence.
If they grow tall and they thin out, then will you get sunlight coming through the trees? Because then they won't be, if they stay short and they get thicker, then that acts more as a fence. But if they get tall and skinny, you'll have sun coming through them. Maybe more so than if they keep topping them. That's just a question, I don't know. I planted a bunch on my property, I have them all around my property.
Yeah, and no one complains about it, but
Can't
they're
wait
not,
for them to get higher.
they're not, well, and I said I don't mind them being a certain height, because that would let my garden grow. And I think if someone's hurting your garden, which you use, why should I be denied sunlight?
But maybe you'll get more sunlight if they grow tall and thin.
We might all be like,
Question, I don't know.
20 years.
Yeah.
So if we have no leverage on your neighbor to change what he's.
Well, you could add that into the law for a height
We'd have
restriction.
to change the law again, and then he'd think we were doing that for him.
Well, I'm saying that you did it for him
I
now,
would
so.
only appreciate if you would give the efforts to work this out with your neighbor another try.
Well, maybe you could help me with it, because it would help if someone else was a kind of a mediator, other than Doug. Well, maybe Doug would be a good person person to do it because he obviously knows them. And he got them to stop the chimes. And they also, besides all this, I complained about, they have lights that come on every time someone drives up, and every light around the house goes on. He did point them down finally, but they still come on and shine in my backyard, very bright. And now there's party lights that stretch in a triangular fashion that are on every night till like midnight. And
Except
this
this
is
is
just
trees, shade your.
it's like a circus. You know, it's like, yeah.
All right, thank you.
So besides all that, I mean, I'm asking for help here. I think I'm very reasonable in saying, please just keep it trimmed to 6 feet or even 7. Start at 6 and it'll grow a little, maybe cut it in a few years.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you for listening.
Anyone else that would like to speak? Yes.
I'm Phil Morrison, 18.
Hi.
Good evening. I wasn't planning to be here tonight, but a series of events happened that and it just happened that the meeting was also going to be this evening, so I had no choice, but I had to come. I'm in disagreement with you dismissing the complaint investigator, Salvador Degate. And a series of events happened today, and it will help illustrate why we really do need him here. I mean, I know he makes around $8,000, he's part-time, and that's not a lot of money for what he's been giving back to this community. I work at home, and today I had the windows open, and I started hearing some men yelling. And Kathy is my neighbor, and so she was privy to this as well. And I looked out the window, and I see somebody I did not recognize that was in front, and there's a storm drain where I am in the middle of the street. And I'm looking at this guy, and it's a young guy, I don't know how old he was, and he's got a blue tube, a thick blue tube that you would use, I guess, for a pool. And I'm thinking, well, what is he doing? Where does he come from? You know, what's going on here? And he's putting it in the storm drain. And it looked bizarre. So I come out and I say, excuse me, you know, what are you doing? Where are you from? I don't recognize you. And he said, oh, we're emptying my uncle's pool. And I'm thinking, there's no pools here. And then I said, where is this pool? And he said, over there, and it's on Quincy. He had snaked a hose underneath the fence, and he has it, and he's loading up the storm drain, which is already filling up with water from the last few rainfalls, and it's not very big, and it's salt water. So I'm looking at this, and I know from different things I do that you don't do this. And I also know that it's against the Department of Environmental Conservation. It's basically a crime. And you don't fill up storm drains, and you don't put the water from your pool, especially a salt water pool, which will kill vegetation and plants and whatnot. And if he overflows it, it will go into her yard, especially because she's in a low-lying area and it's on an incline. So I said, you can't do this. You've got to go somewhere else with this. You don't belong here. You don't live on this street, and I don't even know who you are. And it turned out that it was a surprise for the uncle. They don't live there full time. I know the gentleman that lives in that house, and he's very nice, right? He's a nice neighbor. And I don't like causing problems and complaints, but this was out of line. So I didn't know what to do. And I called up, I actually called Kathy to alert her what was going on as a witness. I knew she wouldn't like it. And I called the village because I knew Doug or Sal would be involved, that I could get down there right away. while this was going on and really stop it. And I find out that Doug's not in. And then I asked to speak to Sal, and Sal had left at 12. And I said, oh, okay, well, I have his personal number that he gave me because I know him. And he said, I'll give you my number if anything ever happens and the village is closed. I'm always available, you know, if I'm, you know, working, I can try to help you. And if there's a problem, whatever it may be, because that's the kind of person he is. And I appreciated that. So I call him, and to my chagrin, he's told me that he is no longer employed and that he was basically let go and that the job was eliminated. And I was astounded because this is one of the best things you could possibly have, is that he's covering for Doug when Doug's not around. He can also file things when people are, you know, code violations, as well as he's got a nice demeanor. As this other gentleman said, he's a good mediator. He is a retired New York NYPD police officer and detective, which helps give us some kind of a bit more security if you need, even though he's retired, he still has that training, and that's important, and it gives you a sense of security, and you feel a little bit safer, especially with what's going on. I don't need to tell you, if you watch the news, we've got break-ins, we've got people eating at restaurants, they come home, they're being, all kinds of crazy things are happening. And this wasn't that crazy, but it could impact the environment and the street that we live on, and it shouldn't have been happening. And not only that, this man that was doing it told me he's got a pool, and he's on Jackson, and he's got a saltwater pool, and he does this all the time. And I was like horrified because, you know, this is so wrong. And I actually replaced a dogwood tree that had been killed from Hurricane Sandy that was killed by salt water. So so then what happened? I wasted the better part of 2 hours because Sal couldn't do anything. He's been given walking papers. I called back the village, like, who do I call? I called the county. I called the DEC out in Stony Brook. They were concerned. They said, we've got a guy, but he's in the South Shore. It's going to take him a while to come. And I'm thinking, if Sal was here, he would have been here in 5 minutes and put a stop to it. He's not here. So I don't understand this, what you've done. I think he should really be reinstated, and I know a lot of people would agree with me. $8,000 is not a lot of money. And
I don't know where you're getting those figures from, but they're not entirely accurate. But I personally feel, after meeting with the various individuals at the village, that we can provide you with the same service, if not better, with the restructuring of the building department as we had planned. I mean, you just so happen to have this cell phone number. Probably a lot of people do not have this cell phone number. And again, I mean, I don't even know.
I know other
what it is
people that have it.
about pumping the pool, but it's a salt water pool that people swim in. I don't know how harmful the water could be.
It
that the
kills
person pumping
vegetation, and it's a crime. There's a $5,000, the DEC came, there's a $5,000, you can find out. I'm not making this up. I went through the whole thing with them. They said they're not allowed to empty a saltwater pool or any pool into a storm drain, especially it wasn't even their street. And not only that, they can't just leave it, let it run out into the street. They cannot put it in the bay. That was another thing that could have happened. You don't know what chemicals are in there because they were also cleaning it. And it really should have been looked into a little bit more, or more thought put into it. And I know people with pools, they don't even empty the pools. They winterize them. And so I think, I know Doug as well. I like him. He's always been very nice to me. There's some people that don't. but I like him, but he's very, very busy. And Sal would cover for him. When now this was a day, Doug wasn't here, and there's sometimes Doug can't be there in a snap because he's very busy. So you're overloading this. And if you're gonna hire somebody else, you've already got somebody that was Sal in here that knew the town, people knew him, he was a recognizable figure, he was a liaison between you people, your board, and I think did he come from, Bob, did you hire, how did he get here?
He had been here through early on and grew up some administration, mayor role. He's been here a while.
Well, he was a good person to have, and he was thoughtful, considerate, and he just tried to keep everything, work things out with people, am I correct? Right?
Absolutely.
And these are all, I never expected, I told them I'm coming, I knew, she said she was coming, I don't know what the other things they were coming for, but people will agree with me. And I think it's not a good thing that you just let him go like that. Because first of all, who's covering for him?
We have a plan in place. I don't want to announce names this evening because we haven't spoken to
Well,
the gentleman yet, and Doug is not here to speak himself. But this was well thought out. We just didn't wake up this morning and say, let's eliminate Sal's position. Obviously, we have the residents in mind when we make a decision like this, and we feel that we're going to be able to give you the same, if not better, service than you had before. And it was strictly a cost-saving measure.
yes, I know. He said,
personally,
he told me
he's a very
that.
nice man.
He told me it was a cost saving, but it's like how much, I mean, you had somebody that knew the town and that knows the ins and outs, and people are familiar with him, and he's like a public figure in his own way, and people like him.
No.
I mean, there's some people that don't like him, that he gives violations
He's
to.
easy to like, and that wasn't the question, Jill.
Well, he seemed to be doing his job. I saw him all over the place, and, and I just, sometimes it's better to leave things. I don't know what your reasons are. I don't know if you're gonna make them public,
Oh, well, I mean, we have a plan.
but if it's a matter of cost, I mean, there's always grants available, or if you've got somebody that's got that background, that's another thing to consider. And for that cost, it's not a lot. I don't know if anyone else has anything to say about it.
Oh, I always thought Sal was a go-to guy, instead of the building department. It's just, he mediated some problems.
And if you're gonna keep dumping more stuff onto Doug, Doug is just gonna, implode because, what? Yeah, but there's so much he can do, right?
Thank you.
So I don't know, when are you going to publicly announce this?
Of what our plan is going forward?
Yes.
Well, the position has been eliminated. Our plan is to fill his role with existing village manpower.
I think Doug has got a lot on his plate
I
already.
didn't say that.
No.
But, it certainly.
I
falls
even
under
asked,
his
I
department.
called the water department and I said, please, can somebody, I was calling Oyster Bay, they said, no, it's Bayville, Nassau County, it's Bayville. And I went in circles with phone calls, and I don't normally do things like this, but I was so outraged. And the DEC officer did show up. I don't know what the outcome was, because I showed him, where the guy was on the other side, and who knows what happened, because I was trying to do other things. And you know, I'm just trying, I care about the environment and the community.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Hello. My name is Carolyn Coleman. I live at 6 Warren Avenue. I started at 4, I lived in 8, and for 30 years I've had a parking problem. Except now it's made its way down to me. And since I can't do the circle of village, not my problem, town, I just came to ask you to enforce your code. So,
What's the parking problem?
I actually have a piece of paper that says there should be no parking at all of a vehicle on my street. But I can't get that enforced because I'm told it's a private road. Which, okay, then I should be allowed to hang the no parking sign myself, since it's my driveway that's inconvenienced. I'm the one that can't turn out of my driveway. I'm the one that was told by a previous village trustee, who is a real estate woman, I believe, who was the one blocking my driveway, that I could go the other way. Well, I actually paid for the pavement that I was standing on, so no, I'm not gonna go the other way. What I'm gonna do is ask you to enforce Article 13, 8067 of the Motor Vehicle Parking and Storage in Residence Districts. Because I can't argue it.
So what's that? Who's parking in front of your home?
It seems to be recently, because of the sale of a house, which they put on here street parking on the sell sheet. And that street parking is behind my driveway. The street isn't big enough. And I just, when I was a kid, it didn't matter to me. But now every day, just on my way here tonight, that same woman, they must be moving out now and they have to, I don't know how you sell a house, right? I guess you change over and somebody has to come up. They were doing that. Where was she parked? Right in front of my driveway.
That road is very tight.
Very tight.
Very tight.
And I have the pictures. I have the pictures of the people running over my beavers and knocking over my planters. Because they don't want to wait for the car or the truck or whatever they. I don't either. But I don't know what else to do. I come, I ask for help. I have this paperwork that says it shouldn't be done, but nobody wants to enforce it. And I'm told if I put the sign up, it's not enforceable. So I don't know what to do.
We all have the same problem. I'm on Bayville Avenue, 9th Street. I get people from Walls parking in my driveway.
Oh, I've had that.
I planted a tree outside of my fence and someone parked on top of it.
Oh, no. I don't think any of you have done what I've done. I'm gonna do it every single time.
I've done a lot, and I get people parking on top of big boulders.
Can you turn out of your driveway?
No, sometimes I can't.
And I'm not doing this, because then what do I pay to have a private street for? If you gifted me garbage and snow, what makes my street private? The sign in front?
Yeah.
Is that really what it is?
Sure.
Okay, so what does that mean? And I'm not being facetious, this is all
But in
new to
the other
me.
streets, I believe, like on the President Streets, they're all private, and they have an association that deals with not letting people park there. We don't have an association fight. I mean, I don't have an association on my
I
road.
have a half a paved street because of an association.
Right, I'm just, but it's not,
But this
Every
is,
case is different, but I mean, basically, private roads are private roads, and the people that own that private road or an association of that can enforce the privacy that they wish to have on that road. And that's why people post, signs on the road that say private road, but there's usually an implied invitation for service vehicles delivering men and the like that come into those private roads. So that's an implied consent by the people who are the owners of the private road.
who enforces the Nassau County tax map in this village? Okay, that's my question. So is it a law that if you don't enforce it, and the county doesn't enforce it, and the town doesn't enforce it, and I'm not allowed to do anything, do state laws take over? Because state law says that you're not allowed to park 20 feet in front of my driveway. So I just need to know, the circle can drive anybody insane. The circle of, it's not me, it's not me.
And if you call the police, they won't enforce.
Oh, no, they won't enforce it. I was sent
It's a
here.
private street.
He said, I can't enforce it
Did you
because.
tell them?
you can
Did you
just
get them?
So I'm looking at a picture of your home. So it's your neighbor at number 4 that's blocking your driveway?
No, it's actually number 5 that was just sold. but this is a daily occurrence. 3 was sold, and they haven't moved in yet. They do it every day. I've lived there for 30 years, it's never been a parking spot.
So 3 and 5 are parking, I guess, in the street, and you can't make a right turn out of your driveway, that's what's happening.
And I'm very honest about my totally bad temper.
Well, if they park on the road, you can't pull out your side because you can't see, and it's too tight, the road is too
And
tight.
I met the FedEx guys at the diner the other day, and they were saying the same thing. You can't get an ambulance down that street if somebody's hurt. You can't. You can't get a fire truck down that street. And I don't understand if the papers, this is all new to me. I don't know anything about this stuff. I just know I get upset. And I shouldn't get upset when I have a piece of paper and a deed that says you're not allowed to do it. It's bad enough that the easement is a problem, but I don't want to argue about that. I asked for a no parking sign. If I can't have that, then can I have the code enforced?
You can,
So this is number 3?
That's number 3. And the day that I did that, we don't know whose car that was. Somebody invited their friends over just to go down there.
I do know on other streets, people do put up their own no parking signs, and it has,
But the cop told me he won't enforce it.
the cops can't enforce it, but it has deterred people.
Okay.
I haven't done it myself. but
Oh, I bought them.
I do know that other people have done them in my general area on different streets, and it has helped, it has deterred people from parking there because people don't know whether it's true or not.
Yes, and I'm not the only one. I don't like it, 7 doesn't, the 3 that are affected by it do not care for this.
Now, the other thing is you have,
Sure.
you have gravel here or
That's
dirt.
not mine.
It's not yours.
And that should be according to the code, not a paved parking lot.
Right. I was told that if they park where they're on the pavement,
No.
they can be ticketed.
Oh, well, they told me no. They told me that there had to be a no parking sign there. That had to be, the cop told me that it had to be clearly implied before he could enforce it, but he can't enforce it if I hang it. He could only enforce it if I came here.
I thought Mr. Rogers, he did that.
So it's a circle.
making a right going up to Mountain Avenue?
No, that's a right going towards Bayville Avenue, right by the Crescent Club.
House, so.
This is not one.
Yeah.
What's your address?
6 Warren
If you
Avenue?
What is it, Warren Avenue?
on the road.
Yeah, but that doesn't look like it is.
This car is not, but if people are, they can be ticketed because they're blocking the roadway from emergency vehicles.
I've seen people get cones, so.
I mean, I'll be honest, that picture of me turning, I got out of my car, went back in my house, made a cup of coffee and waited for the cop. Very honest. They didn't live on that street, and that's why I asked, what does it mean, private? If these people are just gonna invite their friends to park wherever they want, and they don't even live there, what's private?
What did Greenwich Street do? They got their own stickers, right? Is that what the deal was there?
Greenwich petitioned the village with 51% agreed to certain parking restrictions.
But that's not a private street.
Yes, it is.
Oh, I thought that was the only non-private. Okay.
But I have a question on that.
They petitioned the village, if I may just finish, they petitioned the village to establish parking in a certain way, different hours and different sides and whatever else, with those people who lived on Greenwich being given, maybe what do we give them?
Have a handicap.
Right, how many do we give? One per?
It depends.
It depends. So if you own a house on Greenwich, you have a tenant, the tenant would get a parking pass that allows you to park on Greenwich. That had to be done though through local law. So again, petition to the board, local law process that then established this law on the books. If you go to the Village of Bayville Code, you will see what the parking restrictions are on Greenwich. In fact, we're getting ready to switch over signs at the end of this month to now change the sides that can be parked on. Then it's enforceable by the police.
I think the neighbors.
And is that
should
can I ask
agree
a
with
question
that.
on that one though? Because, and I'm being very honest. If you won't enforce it when I ask you, why do I have to petition you to put, I don't understand that. If you don't oversee the street, why do I have to ask you for a no parking sign?
Because your association.
Like that, I
But
truly
you're
don't.
asking us, we can't enforce it without putting it on the books. So
Okay.
if you wanna get your 51% of your
Okay, if I-
neighbors, just like Greenwich did,
If they had any, if that was possible, I wouldn't be here. If you can actually park there and open your car door, and then if they tell them to do it, how am I supposed to go ask these people to sign a petition not to do it?
well, maybe that one particular house wouldn't, but
No.
how many homes are on the street?
This is a 25-year argument. My parents up and moved in the middle of the night because of it. My other neighbors have now up and moved. I'm not moving. I'm not going away. I shouldn't have to sell my home over parking. I just shouldn't.
I'm sure that you could get some other neighbors to agree, because
They've taken over, I mean, I'm not even bringing up the beach, but and it's all new, and they've come in and they've taken over. I have a tax map that says their property ends. These people have no brain. If you open your door, you see this driveway. I don't know how, there's no nice way to say that. I mean, if you open the door, you see you're blocking the driveway. And when I lived at 8 Warren Avenue, it was just as bad. And the answer from those neighbors was, we don't want to inconvenience jockeying. Well, you knew what you bought, didn't you? Because my family lived at 8 Warren Avenue with 4 cars, and not one of us ever parked on the street or in the front of the house. So it's possible. I don't know what is with the people that have moved in. They're very nice, I don't want to know them. Probably they're very nice people. I don't care. I just care that my peace is upset. And it's been going on for 30 years. That everybody has come in here from either Shore or Warren asking for the same issue with the parking, and it never gets resolved. So really, if you tell me that's what my next step is, I have to petition? Okay.
But you're not the only streets that have parking issues.
No,
I mean,
no, it's Bayville. Everybody has a parking issue.
the only way we can enforce it is if
Okay.
we get on the books and get to 51% of the majority to petition.
I mean, because I'm leaving. I'm not living like this anymore. I'm gonna rent my house, I'm done. But I'll come back. So I have to come to the next meeting to do
have to
petition?
So,
Or do I not have to be here?
no. You need to read some paperwork that gives you a sample of what a petition would look like, which you would then get 51% of the people on the block to sign. You would bring that back to the village, and then we would start the process of the public hearings required to establish the local law, to establish, is it going to be no parking on one side of the street? Is it going to be no parking certain hours? Is it going to be you're going to tell
I'm
us
sure she could
what
look at
it
the
is,
Greenwich.
what it is that you're requesting, you're all agreeing to be your parking restrictions.
Okay.
Because it'll apply to everyone on the street.
And while I do that, we can enforce the Bayville code until the next meeting with the no open air parking and exclusive of paved driveways.
We can enforce until we get
Well, I don't know what
No,
section
it's already written. I took it off of the Bayville code.
I don't know what section she referenced.
Oh, it's in-
I don't know
Section 10.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just
She
had it.
made references chapter 10, I'm not familiar with chapter 13. 13 having parking things. Storage, it has to do with storage on the street.
That says you can't have more than 3 cars, one of which is commercial. And I mean, if your house is bigger, you get one more. And no open air parking exclusive of paved driveways in the front.
But this is applying to the person's property, not to the
It
street.
says all residential districts.
That's what that means,
I-
as
I-
I understand it.
Exactly, I do think that section of code applies to
Yeah, I
parking.
don't think this is
It's
relevant to
parking.
the
Or
issue.
section of vehicle traffic is what addresses parking. Section 75.
I don't have the code. Anyway, we'll look into it a little further when we get back.
Please, because otherwise I don't know how to read, and that's what that makes me feel like. 'Cause I
Man,
know
this
that.
happens, by analogy, it happens with paving these private streets. There's problems for years and years, they become craters because none of the neighbors want to put up,
Yes.
put up the money, or they're renting to somebody else and they don't care. So it's not something that the village just turns a blind eye to the bad condition of streets, or turns a blind eye to the problems on Greenwich or any other street. The problem is you have a private street, and you have a private street for a very good reason, you wanted to limit the access to the water. And that's what, this is the other half of the price you pay for having that thing. You don't have the control of the streets
Somebody should.
Well,
It can't be a
we want
lawlessness.
the village to, the village only owns 5 streets in the village. The rest are owned by your associations.
I don't know, that's why I'm here asking. Literally, I just want to know where this building is in the 30 years I've lived here.
The village has an answer, doesn't want to utilize it. The village doesn't have a resolution and would help you in finding the solution that there may be. And Greenwich is a very good example of what you might be able to do.
Thank you.
Do you have a homeowners association that you pay dues to?
But they
No.
do.
There's one that's legally on the books, but no, we cannot get along enough to do that. And like I said, for the most part, I don't want to know, 5 years, I lived here for 30 years, I didn't know where this building was. I've been here more time in the last 5 years than I ever want to be. Asking for help, and I get nowhere. Difference is my parents had enough money to up and move. I will not do that. I will stay here and continue to argue or petition whatever way I can. I'm not, or I'm gonna, like I told the cop, the way you see me parked in the middle of the street, I will do it every day. Every day I can't get out of my driveway, I'm gonna park like that. He's gonna ticket me, he's gonna tell me, and I'm gonna smile. I just don't know what else to do. It's the circle of, how do I make my street not private then? Because really, the sign at the front is the only thing that makes it private. And if I pay, what? Okay, how do I get the petition? Let's just leave it at that. Everybody has one night.
Follow the example of the village has done in Greenwich and see what you can do.
Yeah.
And the documents that are filed in the county, they mean nothing?
I don't think it's a county question.
No, I mean the Lieber and the easement.
Library page number?
Yeah,
Well, that's.
The one that says-
All those records are in the county clerk's office.
I know, I have them.
Yeah.
I went and got it in everybody else's deed. They've been updated since 2010, and it says no vehicle parking on the street.
Yeah, that's private covenants. See, that's the whole purpose of the private roads. The private roads create their own restrictions, and consequently,
Okay.
if someone's
So
parking,
that-
if someone's parking
That
there
says no-
and
says
they're
no
parking
No
on.
parking on the street.
But you have to enforce that,
So
you
then-
have to do that through court. The village cannot
Okay.
do that for
That's
you.
a private
Okay, yeah, and that's what I didn't know.
Yeah, we
So that home and
wouldn't be
three
proper
has the
for us
same
to
thing.
enforce that
Everybody does.
unless we were to take over some sort of jurisdiction, as I presume is allowed to be done on this petition for other principle.
Okay, and again, I'm sorry if I got a little word, I just,
Listen,
It's a circle of-
Very
I've been here
frustrating.
for
It
20
really
years.
is.
I've had the same problem for 20 years. I can empathize with you.
you know, what really set me off was that woman who claimed to be the village trustee. She should know better and don't dare put on a cell sheet that there's street parking when you should have gotten this in your title search.
So everybody's deed says no parking,
Yep.
no street parking.
To make you feel better, I had
The lady
little
in
buttons.
Manila and I are friends.
I had little
I've
buttons.
had it for a while.
Ma'am, I've lived here for 40 years, I've had people putting hoses under the fence to fill up my storm drain.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
had neighbors growing trees, and I've had issues with respect to parking. And I live on a very wide, nice street.
Yes.
It is endemic in an area that is
Yeah, but that doesn't
semi-private.
work. That doesn't work for me, I'm sorry. I can't live like that. There has to be,
Did you
I'm a
tell
little-
your neighbor that that's in their deed?
yes. And my neighbor across the street is actually the one who doesn't like it. He's the one that gave me that. I'll be honest, I didn't know anything about this. He handed it to me because he didn't like it either.
Oh, good, so he'll sign
Yeah.
a petition to get the 51%. That's
Or
what
you
you need to get.
you could go actually sue the other guy because he put a fence down the driveway.
So get him, get everyone together and sign it.
Yeah, I know, next door, and I do feel bad.
So, yeah, I know.
You don't want me, I don't want to come.
You want your picture?
Look, I didn't even know where I was going.
I have to, we
So
know.
that could be an option, talking to your neighbors,
Okay,
that it's
thank
in
you.
their deed.
It's all-
Petition that put no parking on
You
the
can
block.
you can also enforce that.
I totally.
My lawyer told me to get job.
Thank you.
By chance, may I ask you a question? Does your family go back to Coleman on Madison
Yes.
Avenue?
Very much.
Yeah,
And
I knew
that's-
I knew your folks.
Yeah. And that's why I get upset. We've been here that long and I come here and I get, not for, this is my first time ever being
You
here.
know,
But
But
the
you
circle,
know, even Madison Avenue's changed since you folks have been,
yes.
so it's.
Oh, she's still here. She's on Jefferson, and they still own the house on Madison.
And Madison.
This is the sample gift. You're welcome to give me questions about it. I try to work through it as best I can. And if you would like a copy of the Greenwich, Evansville, how they broke it out, with the request I can answer.
That's all. Thank you very much. I also wanted, I'm gonna tell my realtors not to show it on the weekend because of the parking from Walls Wharf. I had limo buses parking on the side of my house, in front of my house, late at night, running. I mean, it's been a nightmare. I have to call these things.
I'm moving on having open house, so I went outside. I don't want you not to sell your house because of me. Sunday, I asked the real estate guy, I gave him you know whose car that is. No.
All right, does anyone else want to be heard this evening?
Is that one?
Ladies?
Anybody else want to
I was
speak?
going to, but I don't think it's gonna.
Well, we're here
And
everyone.
then we have the next one.
What's that?
We're here everyone.
And it's always usually.
Nice of you.
Just like to know what's going on. They were dealing with legal issues at the time, but this is a portion of the.
Well, in Bayville, the problems don't change the last names, don't
Both sides, they wanted to, you know.
That's what I'm saying.
And they talked about doing certain hours, but this will give you something to work with, okay?
Thank you, I'm sorry we went in circles, I tried to make this as much as possible, I
Yeah, we
appreciate
get
it.
it.
That's okay.
And really, it was very nice meeting you all, but I don't know.
This is democracy in action.
Don't get me started on that one. No.
Maria, we have done.
Thank you, have a good night.
Comments, I'll ask
So
for
it's
this
no
motion
one,
to.
you might only go to toad.
Oh, it was the meeting with the, let the record show. Yeah. Thank you, trustee Central. Thank you, trustee Bartolomeo. Trustee Moore?
Yes.
Trustee Central?
Yes.
Trustee Negro?
Yes.
Trustee Natale?
Yes.
Trustee Bartolomeo?
Yes.
Mayor Michelle?
Yes.
I apologize.
You're gonna get a set of
You're not gonna get it. I think he did, no, I'm not joking. I think he did.
I prefer to look at it on paper than on.
Oh,
Yeah.
and he could,
Yeah, me too.
he did already send it to me, electronically, so I could go with that too, in the meantime. I can go over to the contract and get go to the next step.
Okay.
And the
Jones,
Jones,
if you just let me know when it's ready.
I was here Sunday, huh?
Well, it's